and I'm to speak to you about personal branding and executive presence. Personal branding and executive presence. This is a presentation that cuts across all kinds of careers, professions, whatever field that you're in. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter where you are currently, whether you have a job, you don't have a job, you're in a career, or you are actually trying to switch your careers, or you have a business that you're running. One important thing is that your personal branding is going to be very important. So I'll start by telling you one story that happened to me. This was a couple of years ago, and I was chatting with somebody because I wanted to run a corporate event for them. You know, in the corporate world, I work as a corporate compere, and I write, I train, and all of that. But this very day, the organization was doing an event, and I was trying to bid to become the compere for that event. So when I sent them emails and I spoke with the person on the phone, the person was blown out and said, wow, I like the way you communicate, your emails and everything. I like the way you talk and all of that. So the day came when she requested a meeting, which was like 48 hours before the meeting. And unfortunately, on that day when I was going, somehow, I think it was one of those days when I had sold my car. So I wasn't driving. And then I boarded the notorious Lagos Danfo buses. Boarding the Danfo bus was not a problem, but the fact that it rained on that day, and where I sat on that row, there was a hole inside the Danfo bus. If not for village people, why will it be the bus that I boarded that has a hole inside of it? So I went and I didn't know that anything was happening. And by the time I got to my destination, somebody pointed to me, look at your trousers. It's stained and all of that. Of course, you know what that means when there's a hole inside the Danfo and it's raining and the bus is running. So you can imagine how messed up my trousers were. So when the person pointed, I said, okay, don't worry, that once I get to the office I'm going to, I'll just quickly dash into the convenience, clean it up before I have my meeting. Lo and behold, as I got to the office that I was going to, the woman was waiting for me outside. Because she had a meeting and she was just waiting for me to arrive. And then she saw me and saw me messed up. So at that point when she saw me, the presentation, my speaking, my emails and everything, none of that mattered again. All of a sudden she said, in fact, the event is too close. Just for the way I appeared on that day. And quite a number of people, you need to understand that the way you appear before people, no matter how gifted you are, no matter how skilled you are, no matter what you do, some people will see you before they hear you. And in 10 seconds of seeing you, they've concluded whether they want you or they don't want you. So if you want to get a job, for example, you need to understand that in 10 seconds, sometimes the HR manager, the hiring manager has made up her mind or has made up his mind. So if you don't look good, if you don't appear well, even by the time you begin to talk, it's already too late for some of you. So if you look good, if you appear well, if you dress decently, if you understand the importance of personal branding, then you would realize that there are some people you will never get a chance to see until the things that went ahead to speak for you has convinced them that they need to see you. There was also another case recently, somebody who was trying to get me to do a training, and this person didn't know me, of course, and said, okay, I'm not sure about this person. But the other person who was trying to recommend me kept saying, don't worry, I know this guy, just talk to him. And somehow, they assumed they spoke with me, and they never did. So eventually, they had another training, and the person insisted, is this person I'm still recommending? Talk to him. So this guy said, okay, let's talk to him. And he spoke with me, and in 10 minutes of talking to me, the guy said, okay, don't worry, I'll get back to you. Then he spoke with the person who recommended me. I said, wait a minute. The guy we spoke with the last time, he said, I said, no, you guys never spoke with me. And they kept arguing. They thought they spoke with me, and they never did. But speaking with me once then changed the whole impression. And after I did their training, guess what has happened? Somebody kept calling them back and said, we want that guy, we want that guy, we want that guy. But the bottom line is that, what if he never gave me the chance to talk to him? I sent all the profiles they needed. He wasn't even interested in reading profiles. He wasn't interested in reading anything. Just one meeting, and that changed everything. But there are cases where you may never get that one meeting. It's the appearance, it's the pictures, what they see online, how you appear determines everything. So I hope that you're not going to make that mistake that would change everything regrettably for you today. So we're talking about personal branding. What is a brand? A brand, first of all, is the action of marking with a branding icon. That's on the surface level now. Just put an icon on it, put an image on it, put what you call logo. You see it and you remember it in a certain way. The intent of branding is for you to remember something all the time. The intent of branding is for you to remember a certain product in a certain way. to remember a certain service in a certain way, to remember somebody in a certain way. For human beings, many people don't think that human beings have brands, but they have brands, which we call public relations. Why do you think they hire public relations managers? For products, they have brand managers, and the company itself still has a PR manager. The idea is for you to remember everything in a certain way. In the corporate world, there's something called the top of the mind awareness. What's the meaning of top of the mind awareness? It means that, for example, if I mention soda, which one comes to your mind first? Top of the mind awareness. If I mention cars, which one comes to your mind first? Top of the mind awareness. If I mention shirts, what comes to your mind first? Top of the mind awareness. If I mention suits, which one comes to your mind first? So he's become the brand for you. Now, the idea, when I say top of the mind awareness, is that, look, most of these guys are people who have been around for donkey years, and they still keep advertising. Why do they spend so much advertising, despite the fact that they've been around for donkey years? It's to keep making sure that they remain top of the mind. And that's, I'll confess, one day, my full name, for example, is Fola Daniel Adelisi. You see, that Fola, I'll tell, for those who know me, that Fola is actually Folarin Day. So as I was growing up, people know me to be Folarin. And one of these days, several years ago, when I was a secondary school student, somebody came. You know how schools were in those days, when you want to prove that it's my school that has brand, it's my school that has class. In my own school, we know we don't have class. But as far as books are concerned, forget it. You can't shakara us. No matter where you're coming from, we'll compete. So another lady came from another school, Federal Government College, Udogbolu. I was in Mayflower School, and then a person came to our school to come and do extension classes. And all of a sudden, I was like the captain. In fact, I had just become the senior prefect of the school. And the person was saying, your name is Folari. What kind of name is that? After a while, she says, why don't you just, adjust it? She was gradually putting the idea of branding in my mind. And then I said to myself, wait a minute. That name self, the way it's even sounding in people's mouths, the way it's sounding in people's ears self, is even too long. Then I started shortening it. And at that time, Benga Daniel was the governor of the states. So I started thinking, and of course, my name is Daniel. So I started thinking, let me do Fola Daniel. Let me just even do. My father would have thrown me out of the house. When he saw this, what is this guy trying to do? He started fighting me. So I stuck with it. But guess what? When I write my full name, people just naturally pick Fola Daniel. And for me, as a public speaker, as a trainer, as a compere, all the kind of things that I do that revolve around public speaking, I realized one thing. On the list, the name will always stand out. And when they see it, there's something that speaks to them. So you need to come to that place of consciously marking something. So I won't go too much into the definition of branding. From what I've said so far, you understand what branding is. But let me quickly, this image you're seeing, let me talk about it before I move on. Branding is marketing. That's what you're trying to do when you brand something. It's part of it. Branding is marketing. When a church begins to create an icon, as an individual, when you begin to create an icon, that's what you're doing. You're marketing. You're marketing either yourself, marketing a product, marketing a service, marketing an idea. That's what you're doing. You want people to buy it, but you're creating a unique identity for it. The next thing is branding is trust. For example, there are so many cars, but why would you prefer the car that you mentioned earlier to those other cars? Over the years, in Nigeria especially, people believe that Toyota is the most trusted brand, isn't it? Even though Toyota is not arguably the most trusted brand in Nigeria, but it's the one that we have used repeatedly, and we've seen that even if the car is dying, it will keep moving. So that's why branding is about trust. If you give us an impression, and we try to engage that impression and we don't see equal results, we'll start distrusting you. So if you brand, know that you're trying to market trust. So when people engage you, the trust must be delivered. Then the next thing is branding is an identity. Of course, we've said that repeatedly. Then branding is value. Branding is value. How is branding value? Branding is value because when you market, you create all the ads, you jump up and down, you say, this is who we are, and then we come to you. I don't want to mention them, but if you say it, don't say it out loud. Thank God I'm the only one holding microphone. There's a telecoms company in this country that advertises and uses a supercar to advertise most times, but we know that the speed of their internet service is nothing close to a supercar. Which one am I talking about? Don't shout. Don't shout, I told you. So what they have done is to push out a brand, but the value is not commensurate. So when you brand, when you say, this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to do, the value that people get when they eventually engage you must be commensurate. Then the next thing is branding is design. Design is actually the lowest form of branding. So don't think that just coming up with a logo, just coming up with a flyer. Graphics design is not the same thing as branding. Those who think they are graphic designers and automatically call themselves brand, ambassadors or branding, experts, you need to go to a proper branding class and learn how branding is a deliberate, intentional, and almost manipulative in some cases. That's what branding is. It's not always manipulative, but in some cases, because you come out and you say, what is the end result? Before we push out marketing campaigns, we determine the end results. Go and talk to PR managers. Go and talk to those who are into social media management. We determine end results before. So, for example, let me get a little more personal. Before you put on some of the clothes, you envisage the kind of compliments you're going to receive. If I'm lying, say I'm lying. I caught you, right? You envisage the kind of compliments you're going to get. So it's intentional. We don't just come up with something. We don't just push out things there. So then the next thing, you can say it's a logo. It's also a strategy. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, the most important, the few important words here, number one is strategy. Number two is trust, marketing, and value. Strategy, marketing, trust, and value. So if you're pushing out a brand, you need to understand that all these things are very important. I'm going to skip quite a number of things then. Now, when you see some of these images, of course, some of them have names. What comes to your mind when you see, try and pick those ones that have acronyms rather than the few names. Sorry? I didn't hear that. HP, Facebook, yes. IBM. Sorry? No, I want to hear those names clearly. UPS, McDonald's, Starbucks, yes. Twitter, WhatsApp, yes. T-Mobile. Now, all of these things, all of these icons have become a brand. That's why even when their names are not fully written there, you actually know them. That's what a brand is. And how did they get to this level of branding? Consistent marketing, trust, value, identity, and strategy. All those things that I showed you in the previous slide, that's how they got to the level where you cite them and you know them. Let's go further and talk about, look at a few more. What can you see here? Sorry? Kit Kat, Adidas, Apple, yes? Sorry? Shell? Yes? Okay. Louis Vuitton, yes? Yes? You're getting the point, right? Who said Maggie? Where did you say Maggie? Okay, yeah, awesome. Your eyes are sharp. Now, okay, you get the point, right? These are brands that, how many of them are consistently advertising, or how many of them do you get to interact with today? Not many of them. But you know the icons because of a few things, a few components. Marketing, strategy, trust, value. That's the reason why they become an identity and an icon that you can reckon with. So one thing I want you to recognize today is, you remember, okay, take for example, I was going to get to that point. I mentioned suits, somebody mentioned Pastor Barrow. You've got to get to that point where when we mention your name, and one thing, when I teach branding in classes, one of the things I say to them is, we do an exercise. I ask somebody to get up, hoping that every other person in the class knows that particular person. Then I ask the person, what do you think people think about you? How do these other people perceive you? Then the person gives me an idea and says, I'm gentle, I'm calm, I'm reserved, I'm easygoing, and they mention all the nice things about themselves. Then we say, okay, can you please excuse us from this class for like 10 minutes? Then I ask the other people in the class, what do you actually think of this person? Then they start saying some things that are different. You know what we call that? It's called perception gap. Meaning that what you think of yourself is different from how people think about you. So there's a perception gap. But if what you think about yourself is exactly the same as what people think about you, there's a perception alignment. Perception gap, perception alignment. So some of you need to do a test on your perception. What I think about myself, is that how people perceive me? What I think about myself, is it exactly the reality? I'm just being delusional. Am I deceiving myself? Am I just assuming that this is how people perceive me, or I need to find out exactly how people perceive me? And trust me, when you talk to the people who are closest to you, you may realize that there might just be a little perception gap. It's okay if the perception gap is small, but if the perception gap is wide, then you need to work on something else. Now, sometimes, let's try to link it back to what we're talking about on Sunday. And one word I couldn't stop hearing on Sunday was, steeze and composure, steeze and composure. I'm like, it looks like very soon we'll just start one parish and call it Steeze and Composure Parish. So the bottom line is, when you realize that you think this is how people receive you, and there's a difference, it means that there's something you're not doing right. Maybe the way you're projecting yourself. And that's happening even on the resumes of a lot of people. For example, you say to me you're a communications person. I look at your resume. Nothing on your resume projects you as a communications person. You say, I'm a tech person. And then you are writing NYSC, teacher, first job, teacher. I'm like, what has it got to do with tech? Even if you don't have a job in tech, because the ideal thing to do is, we know you don't have the experience, so market your skills. Where you're deficient in experience, what do? Market your skills. That's what you do. So don't market the experiences that are irrelevant. You just, this guy has been working even since he was born. We don't need that. Do you get the point? So let me move fast because I don't have all the time in the world. Now, Pastor, I've talked a bit about this. So brand for you is, number one, your image. Number two, your what? Mission. Number three, your what? Values. And number four, that's how you actually craft a brand for yourself. Your image, your mission, your values, your vision. And guess what? If you have settled on your vision, it will determine how you act. It will determine how you behave. It will condition your culture. And when your vision conditions your culture, there's a way you do things. There's a way you carry yourself. There's a way you walk around. I don't know how, but I remember that some years ago, I would walk in a particular area, and once I get to a particular bus stop, these are all Okada riders and stuff, and everybody starts calling, Pastor, Pastor, Pastor. And I wonder, Ibo let him know me. Where do you know me? And they actually don't know me. Then one day I went to Ibadan, and I'm wearing jeans and polo, and in Ibadan garage, somebody who is begging just walks up to me and says, he just looks at me and says, Pastor. I'm like, what's going on? This thing is not written on anybody's head. How come everywhere I turn to somebody's, and then in the university days, I remember I would walk into somebody's room and somebody would just say, Pastor. I'm like, what's going on here? Why? Maybe I've unconsciously marketed that image. So if you are not something, or if you don't want something, and you notice everybody is calling you that something, it means that there's something you're doing to market or to project yourself in that direction. So your image. Now, what this means is that you need to be more conscious of your image. You need to be more what? One day, one of our fathers in the Lord, Pastor Brown, so I was greeting him one day. I said, you're looking good, sir. He said, what shall we do? We can't afford to be caught on fresh. He's a man who just turned 70. The man just turned 70 and said, what shall we do? We can't afford to be caught on fresh. So you need to understand that you have to be deliberate about your image. Trust me, some of you, maybe where you came from, you just unconsciously wear certain kinds of colors because that's your father's favorite color, or because that's your mother's favorite color, and that's the only thing that is delaying your marriage. You just realize that just changing the top just changes the whole thing. Now, we're not asking you to wear a bodycon. Of course, the ladies know what a bodycon is. If you don't know, don't worry. But, we're not asking you to wear a bodycon. You just realize that there's a difference between boo-boo and a nice fitting dress. And just switching between a boo-boo and a nice fitting dress, we can announce your marriage in 6 months. And this guy realizes that he's been trying to talk to this lady. You've been talking and talking and talking. And the only thing you just needed to do is just start wearing polos. Not wearing a purple shirt on a lilac trouser. Be more conscious of your what? Of your image. If I see you from what you look like, from the way you dress, how do you think I will receive you? In fact, let me throw the question to you today. If you were a product, would you buy yourself? If you were a product, would you do what? Would you buy yourself? So guys, don't say that these ladies are too arrogant. If you were a woman, would you accept your own proposal? I didn't plan to shake tables. So what are the elements of a personal brand? The elements of a personal brand, number one is what? Your physical appearance, which is how you dress. It's very important. Now, I see a lot these days on the internet, people say what I ordered versus what I got. The reason you always have to say what I ordered versus what I got is that some of you don't even understand your body's shape. And that the dresses you wear or the dresses you can wear are determined by your body shape. There are things that will look good on somebody else. For your own body shape, it will not look good. And you don't have to wear that particular thing to look good. Take, for example, if you are brief and down to earth like me, you can't wear, horizontal stripes. You have to wear vertical stripes that make you a little... It's common sense. Sorry. So you need to do a little more research into of course, you know what your body type is. So you then go online, describe yourself a bit on the internet and say, what kind of dresses, what can I wear? What suits my body shape? If you're tall, there are certain, don't wear, vertical lines and stuff like that because it makes you look like, and then we see you and say, the thing where snake born, now snake you go. So there are things there are things you wear that bring out or that complement your shape, complement your size, complement, your nature, regardless of what size of the divide you're on, whether you're on the plus size or on the minus side, Then the other thing is your areas of knowledge, skills, and abilities. For a few years, I almost thought that that's all I needed, and I made that terrible mistake. I lost a few things because of this. Your skill is important, your knowledge is important, and I always want to, wait for people to recognize the skill, thinking that the skill was enough. But trust me, with my experience, either as somebody who has had a few jobs in the corporate world, and now as a trainer, I can tell you confidently that your skills and your abilities are not enough in the corporate world. You can have all the skills, but you see, until we give you a chance, we don't know what your skills are. We don't know your skill set. But I can look at you, see you're nicely dressed, and I can open the door just because you're nicely dressed. And if you're nicely dressed and we open the door, then you get a chance to display your skills. But if you also come nicely dressed without the skills and we open the door for you, the way we opened it for you, that's the way we slam it on you. I remember one lady back in those days. I used to work for an organization called Faith Foundation. They're into enterprise development. And there was a lady in our office then, always on stilettos, never to be caught on fresh, steeze and composure 100%, everything prim and proper. But you see, when you sent, all of us had a computer to ourselves, and we did everything on our system. Now, when it's time to deliver us something, is this lady that is always delaying us. Why? She has a problem using the computer. But after the day's work, once it's 4:30, I'm sorry, I have to take care of myself. It's almost time. I'm going home very soon. One day we had to call her and say, come, if you don't want to lose this job, find one weekend, go to one computer place, go and learn. Because everything we do is on what? Is on computer. So the correct blend of a brand would be to have the physical appearance, to have the skill set, and then move to what? Communication. How you talk is very important. How you talk is what? Is very important. I remember doing a presentation as well in this mission, and I was to face one of our very senior pastors. And this person said, okay, let's hear you out. And I was to talk for like 10 minutes. I'd spoken for 2 minutes. They said, don't worry, you have the job. It's very important. You need to understand how to articulate yourself. You need to work on your presentation. You need to work on your diction. I hear people say presentation. It's presentation. I hear people say develop. There's nothing like develop. And don't be proud to associate yourself with any group or any tribe that, brags and says develop. It's develop, not develop. I hear people say longevity. It's not longevity, it's longevity. There are quite a number of words that we butcher. There's so many of them. And guess what? Can I shock you today? Can I shock you? Do you know that you all have beautiful voices? Do you know that you all have beautiful voices? But the way you speak will bring out the beauty in your voice. And I'm not flattering you. I speak as someone who has trained public speakers and who still works on people. I'm telling you, once you start pronouncing your words correctly, the way you will sound in people's ears will be different. When you talk and people turn their heads, you know there's something you're doing differently. And you can get to that point. Of course, there's a difference between accent and correct pronunciation. You see, that's another level entirely. There are those who have accent, but they don't have international passports. We both know. But the important thing is not that they have accents. The annoying thing for me is when you use an accent and mispronounce your words. That's the annoying thing. You don't need an accent to pronounce your words correctly. You don't need an accent. Just pronounce the words correctly. If you can do the accent correctly and it works for you, no problem. But don't do accent and mispronounce words. That's the annoying. You now use accent and you're talking in front of someone. Because I studied mass communication, I studied diction, I spent time reading transcriptions in dictionary. So I see a word, I know how it's pronounced, or I hear a word, I know you're mispronouncing it. You're now using British accent to pronounce longevity. So let's talk about executive presence because my time is almost up now. Executive presence, we use words like aura, your courage. It speaks to your courage. It speaks to the way you present yourself. There's a way some people carry themselves. If they tell you they are jobless, you will never believe they are jobless. In fact, you say they are CEOs. This person must be the MD of the company. At the end of the day, the person now gets on stage, carries the microphone, and says that actually I am an aspiring. Now you come to work and say, like saying, now you to be the CEO. But it's the courage. And guess what? It opens doors for people. It opens doors for people. Carry yourself differently. Don't walk and start slouching. You're walking, you are foot dragging. It's one of the most annoying things you can do. Why are you? Is a lack of executive presence. When you walk, don't tell me it's because of the slippers you're wearing. Or don't tell me it's because of the kind of shoes you're wearing. When you're walking, I should not hear the sound of your foot. Except, of course, it's a hard sole. Outside of being a hard sole, walk smartly. Lift your legs. Don't foot drag. Your grooming is so poor. If you want to keep beards, be nice about it. Don't let it look like that of Goliath. Trim properly if you're going to keep beards. And if you're not going to keep beards, if you're going to look like a military man, trim proper. Which one is goatee? If the thing is not growing, let's know you don't have it. Just shave it. But if you intend to have beards and it's not growing, Pastor, I'm going to need security guard after the service. It looks like they won't let me walk. So the way you carry yourself, I wish I can play this video for you, but because of time, what I'll do is I'll make sure everybody gets the slide, and I'll also make sure you get the links to the videos so that you can play the videos yourself. So I need to move on. So the executive presence, let me go to 3 components of executive presence. Number 1 is called gravitas. That's how you act. Some people just carry a natural grace. They are endearing. Everybody loves them. They are appealing to people. So it's natural to some people. Some other people need to work on themselves. And for some of you, the only thing you need to add to have this gravitas is a smile. No matter condition. You know how I'd reach that one. Trust me. The way you are, as somebody would say, the way you are franking your face. It's costing you a lot. A little smile. Of course, don't fake it because some people fake it. And if you are faking a smile, we know you're faking a smile. So be genuine. Just, just then, even if you don't have to open your teeth, and you don't have to open the teeth just, to give a smile. There's a way you can, broad smile and stuff like that. So make sure you're smiling. Then we've talked about communication. We talked about appearance. So those key things determine your executive presence. There's a way you carry yourself, and you must carry yourself confidently. Let me move to, so how do you improve this gravitas? That's the way you appear. Number one, deliberately build your confidence. Some of you, if you see somebody else, automatically your confidence is gone. Maybe because the person is wearing a brand. Maybe because the person is carrying a Louis Vuitton. Maybe because the person is wearing a Dolce & Gabbana. The person is wearing, whatever it is they're wearing. In those days, it was TM Louis that was reigning for guys. And, you just like it. But whatever it is that they're wearing, guess what? You must have there's one, I don't want, okay, I can say this. You know that lady called Jennifer? You know one thing about her? It doesn't matter who you are, she can stand in front of you. That extreme confidence, although of course there's a negative part to that, but the point is, it's not what you are wearing that determines her own confidence. She's confident in herself. You need to get to a point, like I was talking to somebody on Sunday, I said sometimes it's not what you're wearing, it's who is wearing it. Guess what? If a king wears a dress, what do you call it? It's a royal apparel, regardless of how cheap it is. It can be 6,000 naira. You can wear a dress of $1 million. What the king is wearing is the only one they call royal apparel. With your $1 million dress, it doesn't qualify to be a royal apparel. So how you wear it is also far more important than what you're wearing. So you can wear a 1,000 naira shirt. It's how you wear it. Guys, you know what they call a gedun? Leverage it. Leverage it. Some of us don't like to iron. If you don't like to iron, it's okay. Take it to the dry cleaners. Let it come back and look like a sparkling new dress. You know your face is constantly oily and stuff like that. Have a napkin with you all the time. Just dab, from time to time. They say you are doing shakara. Is it their shakara? Then do your research before any outing or presentation. What's going to be ideal? What's going to be appropriate? What kind of audience are you talking to? Of course, if I was talking to another audience, I wouldn't dress like this. So make sure you are speaking with facts when you're speaking, because it gives you a lot of confidence. So those are very important things. It looks like my time increased. Okay. So make clear decisions or propositions when you're doing, if you have to do a presentation. It's so important. So your dressing is very important. Your appearance is very important. If something is your favorite color, we know it's your favorite color, but be discreet with how you do it. Be what? Be discreet with how you do it. Particularly if you're going to do something that someone else has to determine your results. Take, for example, if red is your favorite color, and somebody else has a problem with red. You now wear red cap, red shirt, red trousers, red tie, red shoes. When you show up, what do you think will happen? If it is your favorite color, there's no problem with that. But when you have to do a job interview, you need to do anything that someone else will determine your fate. Please make sure you are a bit more reserved. Then even with your cologne, what you wear, be more careful. I read a story a while back, and trust me, and I think it's a true story. So this guy wears a cologne, went for a job interview, was a solid guy, the best of all the guys that came for the job interview, and he didn't get the job. So the ladies that conducted the interview went for lunch, and an unknown guy, the unknown guy is the one telling the story now, went for lunch as well. And the first lady was talking to the second lady, who actually determined who got the job, and said, why didn't you give the guy the job? The guy was the best of all the people that came. He knows this thing. This guy is solid. He said, can't you see that he's wearing the same cologne as my ex? Just for wearing exactly the same cologne as the lady's ex, that's why he lost the job. Because that cologne reminds her of someone, a negative experience. Now, you may say that's unfair, but really, tone down on whatever you're wearing, whatever you're doing, whatever you want to use to enhance your presence. You execute. Don't overdo it. Do it moderately. Don't do what? Don't overdo it. Particularly, as I've said, if someone is to determine your fate. So the next thing on communication is clarity is very important. Then I hear some people say clarity. It's not clarity. Clarity. Clarity is very important. Conveying your message clearly and concisely. Listening is very important. In fact, twice as important if you want to build a brand. And then the next thing is body language. Clarity. Speak clearly. Open your mouth. They are not going to bite you. They won't consume. Open your mouth clearly and talk. Listen very carefully. Then your body language. Many of you need to study body language. There's a way you stand, and it looks like you're trying to seduce the person that is talking to you. There are things you wear. There are things you wear. And it appears as if you're trying. For example, you come to an interview, and I say this a lot, and some people try to fight me, especially some of the people who may be feminists. You're going for an interview, you wear a camisole, and on the top of the camisole, it's flowery with holes in it. What are you trying to achieve? When you say, is it a hit or a miss? It's a miss. You need to be very careful. A guy, years ago, I was on a TV reality show, and a guy came on stage, wore a pink shirt. A guy wore a pink shirt. There's nothing wrong with a guy. Trust me, there's nothing wrong with a guy wearing a pink shirt. But because one of the judges just didn't like a pink shirt on a guy, that day he had a problem. So it's important. Your body language, there are things you wear. There's a way you wear certain things. It communicates something. So be careful what your body language is communicating. When you're talking to somebody and you want to show, especially somebody who is older, you don't fold your arms and stand like this. You don't do like this. Or you don't stand like this. It's because it's as if you want to fight. It's a finish, or we'll begin the fight. So it's very important that you manage that composure and the way you talk. So, sorry? Okay, so how do you stand? Number one, for gentlemen, you can, if you're standing, you can, your legs ajar is okay. With your legs ajar. Your palms straight beside your legs is okay for gentlemen. Your palms, I said, straight behind. For the ladies, maybe one arm can be behind your back. There's nothing wrong with that. You can hold your hands like this. If you do like this, it communicates you're listening. But if you do, there are two different things. Do you understand? So try generally to avoid holding your arms above or around the waist level or around your chest level. You can, your hands clamped together, can hold down. This is okay. Or better still, behind. So make sure that you don't communicate anything wrong when you're talking to people. So let me see. Okay, I think I've said some of these because my importance of good appearance. Let me just wrap up with that because my time, I have just 2 minutes left. Number one, your good appearance creates a positive first impression. Sometimes you would never get a chance to create a second first impression. Not that sometimes, you never get a chance to create a second first impression. So looking good is very important. Then, it reflects your attention to details. If you show up anyhow, depending on the particular job, depending on what we're talking about, if you show up anyhow, people think that you're not serious. Then it creates a good image of the organization you represent. Do you know that the reason some people in church don't want to agree for Christian brothers is because they believe we don't have steez? So brothers, you've got to do better. Brothers, sorry? What about the ladies? Yeah, of course, it's the same for some of them too. It's not just the guys. So, let's do better because remember that the way you're dressing, it represents an organization. Whether you consciously know about it or not, you are representing your family, you are representing an organization. So if people mention your surname, the way we see you dress is how we think about your family. When we hear your surname, the way you dress is how we think about the church you attend. When we think, it's an unconscious thing. That's why I'm talking about it. And it's a natural thing. Take, for example, if I mention bank, any kind of bank here now, the thing that will come to your mind is somebody that works in that bank that you've interacted with. Or some people that work in that bank that you have met a couple of times. Now, okay, let me do this quick exercise. Which one has... no, we're streaming, I can't say this. But let me put it this way. Don't say it, oh. First Bank, what kind of people come to your mind? I said don't say it. GT Bank, what comes to your mind? Why did that come to your mind? How did it happen that way? It's an unconscious thing. But until somebody talks about it, that's when you realize, So, my time is up, so I'll just stop here and take questions and answers, right? Just tell me. Okay, let's say question and answers. If you have questions, please. I should finish this one. Okay, thank you, sir. I've just been told to finish the slide on building confidence. The first thing to do is to be well prepared if you're doing meetings and presentations, be well prepared for them. Don't over prepare. Some of you will prepare up until the last minute. And then you get there, you think you have 1 hour, and then they tell you have 10 minutes to talk. And as soon as they tell you have 10 minutes to talk, you are destabilized. So let me tell you one of the things you can do. Have your full slide and have a cue card. You know what a cue card is? Like a short note, just bullet points. So just in case they tell you no longer have 1 hour, what do? Automatically switch to your cue card. But being well prepared gives you a lot of confidence. If somebody is talking to you and you realize that this person does not know what he's talking about, and you know more than the person, what do you do when you hear that kind of conversation? You just start laughing. I remember I was to do a training, this was in 2021, thereabout. I drove all the way to Ife, and I was training some very senior bankers. Guess what happened? The person that spoke with me is a banker. Spoke before me is a banker, their colleague. And they messed him up after his presentation. He said, what is all this? You better prepare very well next time when you're coming to talk to us. How can you be like this? And the two people that went with me, they are like pastors. So they were looking at me and were already afraid for me. As soon as I saw that they were afraid for me, I just stood up and started pacing up and down. Of course, you can imagine what I was doing. I was pacing up and down. I knew I was well prepared. But because I realized that they were discouraged on my behalf, I got up, walked away from them. So when the presentation started and I started handling my presentation, the guy that was managing my time said, sir, we can't give you 45 minutes. We can't give you 1 hour anymore. It's now 45 minutes. I said, don't worry, 45 minutes is fine by me. Then I got the slides, started my presentation. When I was done in 45 minutes, the Oga said, Oga, but your time was too short now. I said, your man told me to do 45 minutes. Then the man that told me to do 45 minutes, when he realized that his Oga was now saying my time is too short, he said, you should have given him more time, or you should have kept going. At the end of the day, 2 people bought over 150 copies of my books in one presentation. So what did I do? Number 1, well prepared. Number 2, I noticed something was about to discourage me. What did I do? I walked away from it. Because what they were feeling can walk into me. Yet the person that was before me had messed up. So well prepared. Number 2, use affirmations to boost your self-esteem. Some of you, maybe because of where you grew up, maybe because they told you you're stupid, you're a bastard, you're this. That's what you heard repeatedly while growing up. It has damaged your ego and you don't know. If anybody talks to you anyhow now, you start weeping. Why? Because of the things you heard growing up. So when they talk to you anyhow, it's a reinforcement of what was there before that you haven't dealt with. So talk to yourself. I've not started going all over the world, but I tell you, I'm a global public speaker. I'm a quintessential public speaker. It doesn't matter what you think. I'm an author, I'm this and that. The way I reinforce your confidence. This is who I am. This is what I am. So do that regularly. Then regularly seek constructive feedback. Constructive what? Feedback is very important. It will build your confidence. And don't take offense when people correct you. The first time I heard the word favorite and that it's not favorite, I was in GS1 and I said favorite. And the man almost knocked my head and said, it's favorite, not favorite. And I took it. And guess what? When you correct me like that, I never forget that word. Never. But I noticed that when I try to correct some people, forget it, oh, fight has started. Oh. You are an enemy. So when I see such people, I don't correct. I just leave them. So it's important. Number one, how do you build your confidence? Preparation. Number two, affirmation. Number three, constructive feedback. Thank you. God bless you.
All right, let's celebrate Pastor Fola Daniel.